Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Money Unplugged. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for being here. Today on the show, I talk with Alison Kosik. She spent years as a business reporter and anchor for CNN. She would deliver live shots from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, sometimes up to 30 a day. She became one of the most recognizable faces of financial journalism on television, but that was her public life. And as we talk about, at the same time that was going on in her private life, she was handing off most of the big financial decisions to someone else. Last year, she wrote a terrific book called What's Up with Women and Money? How to Do the Financial Stuff You've Been Avoiding. And in the book, she shares a lot of personal details about her life as well as very practical steps for managing different aspects of your financial life, including, by the way, a chapter on home ownership that should just be required reading for anyone who buys a house. So let's get into it with Alison Kosik. You grew up in Florida, right?
I did. Born in North Miami and lived in North Miami as really young, and then moved to Pembroke Pines where I lived and went to school. Yeah. You know, like middle school, high school.
What's the earliest memory you have when it comes to money?
Fights in my house about it. Yeah, lots of arguments. But, you know, as much as that was sort of one end of the spectrum, the other end was my dad always said, save, 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 save. I didn't, you know, save meaning what? Like he didn't use the word invest. He meant save. And, you know, back when I was growing up, that's really what it was. Investing didn't become a topic we all talked about as much, I don't think, until the advent of social media, where, you know, it sort of opened the door to talking about all ways of investing and how to get started and all that. So when my dad said save, he meant don't spend all your money on stupid stuff. So he was trying to instill, I think, as best he could, take care of your money as you grow up.
It's interesting because you're reminding me that I'm older than you, but you're reminding me that, yeah, when we were younger, investing was not something that was really talked about. I mean, money wasn't talked about all that much. Investing was talked about far less. And in some ways, I feel like although it was never said explicitly, to me anyway, I always sort of got the impression like investing is something that like rich people do.
Right, it was super exclusive.
It was this small thing that not everyone did.
But it was. It kind of was. It was exclusive and it excluded. I really feel like, I mean, I don't know for sure. I haven't looked, but it feels like it did. Like, for example, buying a share of stock. Let's say you're buying shares of whatever for $360 a share. If you don't have that money if you didn't have that money back in the 70s, you couldn't buy a share of stock. Now, since the 90s, I think, fractional investing came into play, and you can buy that stock because you don't need $360. You can spend $1 or $5 and buy a fractional share. That actually did not exist. So that exclusivity of investing, I think, has changed so much as time has gone on. I think it's really become much more accessible for so many people.
What was the first job you had when you were a teenager?
My very first job lasted about 2 days. I scooped ice cream, and I couldn't do it. It was frozen, and I didn't have the arm strength, and it was like the worst 2 days. I remember going home crying. I was like, I can't do this. And I went back the second day and looked at the guy and said, listen, I just can't do this. There's just I physically can't do it. I mean, it's sad. Believe me, to this day, I'm working on my arm strength.
Was it that the ice cream was hard, or was part of it also? Because I've heard this from other people who scooped ice cream. I didn't have that particular job when I was a kid.
The ice cream was rock hard.
Okay, but I've also heard that like some places they're very particular about the amount. It's not just like you got to get in there and scoop it. It's like, no, you can't scoop too much. You don't want to skimp. You have to really thread the needle.
This ice cream was rock hard. I even put the scooper in warm water. It did not help. I said, forget it. This is not for me. And I don't remember I went to do a different job. I can't quite remember. I feel like maybe I went to retail and that was that. I like worked at some department store that was nearby my house. And I worked in retail throughout high school, I think. Yeah.
You went to American University for college?
I did, Washington, D.C.
What did you study?
Journalism and political science.
And did you go in knowing this is the path I want to go on? Like, were you one of those kids you were writing for the high school newspaper, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I wasn't just writing for, there wasn't a high school newspaper. I did write for the Sun Sentinel, which was an actual newspaper in South Florida. And so I didn't get paid for it, but I wrote for their lifestyle section. And I knew from 12 years old that I wanted to be a journalist. I remember watching Peter Jennings, and, the female role models weren't there. So he was the one I sort of latched on to. I don't know. I guess it was his integrity that I really valued. And I knew I wanted to do news. I don't know if I really knew I wanted to do TV news. I know that I knew I wanted to write. So I remember as early as 12 years old, the Miami Herald would have these contests in the newspaper. Like, if you write this essay, you can be in this parade, or if you write this essay, you can be in this ad. And I remember entering these contests and actually winning a couple of them. And I don't know if I won them because I wrote well or because no one else would bother it would have the time to enter these, silly little contests. So one of them I won. I was like in the Pembroke Pines parade or something like that. And another one I won, like, what's one small business that had changed my life. And it was like this gym that I went to. And so they had this full page ad of me in my little flash dance, like spandex, holding these weights. And my mom has it up on the wall to this day. But it's me. I wrote the essay, and I won this silly little contest and had this full page of me in the Miami Herald. But I wanted to write. And so I was like, how else can I write? I was like, I had this itch. And so I remember going to the Sun Sentinel and interviewing and them saying, listen, we're not going to pay you, but we would love it if you write some stories for our living section. And so I liked animals. And so I pitched this story about animals. It was like in Miramar. And I went and drove to, I guess it was some sort of shelter. I don't even remember what the topic was. But I remember finishing the story, and I had stepped in dog and I think I was wiping my shoes off. So I was distracted. And I left my notepad on top of the car and drove away. And I remember realizing it afterwards and running back to get the notepad. But I wound up doing the story, and it wound up being like the lead story in on the cover of their living section, the pictures I took and everything. And it was so exciting. And I realized, wait, I can have pictures and write, and I can write and use words. And then I realized, wait a minute, I could also, there's video too. And so I got interested in TV journalism as well.
And clearly the people at the Sun Sentinel were like, this is great. We don't have to pay her a dime.
Yeah. I was thrilled to do it and not get paid. I was so happy because I did a few stories for them, and it gave me sort of my resume. It added to my CV at the time. So it was good.
So you graduate from AU and go straight into journalism?
At some point I went to New York, and because I loved New York. Who doesn't as a young 20-something-year-old? And I started working at CBS News Path as a producer overnight, and figured I would do that job because it gave me access to tape that I can create my own resume reel and then send out tapes to try to get a job in TV. Even though I'd been working on Capitol Hill the whole time as a field producer intern, I went back to New York anyway, and wound up getting two job offers on the phone. One was to be an anchor in West Virginia, and another was in Corpus Christi, Texas, to be a reporter. And I chose the reporter instead of the anchor. And these were jobs I accepted over the phone. This job I accepted over the phone. So, yeah. And so that was my very first job on TV as a reporter. I decided I didn't want to do the anchor job. I was like, I want to be a cub reporter and get out there and be scrappy. And so that's why I took the Corpus Christi job instead.
And at any point, whether it's, when you're getting ready to graduate from college or maybe a boss that you had earlier in your career, is anyone having the money conversation with you? Because what you just described is how so many people, particularly in television news, that is their career path. They go off to some small market where they can get airtime. They're, in their early 20s, and they're not getting paid a lot of money. And if they're good, they can work their way up to bigger markets. And I'm just wondering, at any point, are you thinking about money, or are you just solely focused on the job?
I am solely focused on the job. I knew that I was getting paid nothing. I mean, for that Corpus Christi job, I got paid $13,000 a year. But lucky for me, I worked overtime. So I remember my first check was like $21,000. So for the year, not my first check, my annual income for that first year, $21,000, which really illustrates just how much overtime I worked. I worked my butt off, and I didn't have a lot. I mean, it's the funny thing. I slept on this egg crate that was I didn't have a real bed. It was maybe a couple inches it was thick. I think.
Well, like the egg crate foam?
Yeah, foam. I slept on a piece of foam, and the boxes that I moved into Corpus Christi, I used as my nightstands. I couldn't afford furniture. And I bought some little pots and pans, and I just lived my life. But here's what's funny. I was really, really happy. I didn't care that I slept on the floor. I am in this process of building my career, and this is what it takes. This is what I believed. Not so sure that exists anymore, but yeah. And then when I got another job in San Antonio, I was like, this is easy. I just rolled up my egg crate, repacked my boxes, and went to San Antonio. I didn't have any furniture to move. It was fantastic.
Right. No need to get a U-Haul. You're fine.
Nope.
Stuff it all in the car. How does the world of business journalism come into your purview?
I was working at the local affiliate here in New York for CBS. I was a producer because I was a reporter at CBS 2, but I was taken off the air because I'll keep it PG here. Let's just say they didn't think I was sexy enough to be on TV. So I was taken off the air, and I said, I need this job because I had just moved my family here, my kids and my husband at the time. And I was like, I need to have this job. I need to have a job. And so they're like, okay, fine, be a producer. I said, okay, yes. And I really did believe I can do it. Meaning I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, I got a call from CNN. I had made contacts with CNN when I lived in D.C. Before this. I had moved to New York twice. And so I moved to Washington twice. And the longest period of time when I was in D.C., I worked in a building on I Street that shared a floor with CNN News Source. And so I became very friendly with the bureau chief there. And so then when I moved to New York for the CBS job, I suddenly got that call from CNN saying, can you fill in for somebody's maternity leave at the stock exchange? And I said, really? And they said, yes. I said, but I don't have any business news experience. And the woman on the phone was so sweet. She's like, from Atlanta, oh, honey, don't worry about that. You'll learn that on your own. You'll learn that on the job as you go. I was like, okay, count me in. And she was right. I hit the ground running. It was an overnight shift that I did morning live shots for CNN's affiliate services division. And it was trial by fire. I wound up teaching myself everything I needed to know about how to report business news. And the live shots, and, there was a producer that came to help, but, I pretty much wrote everything and, did all these live shots, 15 to 30 live shots at the time a day. And just the reps really helped. And I learned business news really quickly that way. And then CNN offered me a job. And so I moved over from the affiliate services division to CNN.
I want to say a quick word about Mar-Mar, the chili garlic crunch that is easily one of the best condiments I have ever tasted. And in addition to being delicious, it is so versatile. I'm talking the kind of thing where you're putting it on eggs in the morning, on a sandwich at lunch, adding it to a dip for snack time, and whatever you're making for dinner. Once you have a jar in your kitchen, you will not go back. Go to ilovemarmar.com, use the promo code MONEY at checkout, and you get 10% off your order. They've got classic Marmar, the spicy version if you want a little more heat. They even make a gluten-free version. That's ilovemarmar.com. Use the promo code MONEY and get 10% off. Trust me on this one. All right, let's get back to Alison. I remember talking one time with Becky Quick about her early days in financial journalism, and one of the things she talked about was getting the Wall Street Journal, reading it cover to cover, and highlighting anything she didn't understand so that she could look it up. Like, that was sort of her way of taking herself to business school, if you will. What was your process like? Because you got this great opportunity, but also you're being thrown into the fire and you're doing live shots. Like, were you in fact spending part of your downtime just like reading everything you could get your hands on?
Absolutely. Yes. I was reading everything I could get my hands on. And the benefit of me being at the stock exchange was I became friends with a lot of the traders. And I would just, after I'm done with my shift, I would go downstairs and I would, talk with them. I would ask them, how do things work? They would show me. It was like my graduate school. And so I was there at the stock exchange, which helped. And what's funny also, I shared a booth with CNBC. So I wound up talking to the folks there as well a little bit. And I really do think that a lot of it actually was also informational interviews. I would call up analysts and talk to them to try to understand, because I was building my source list. And so I would build my knowledge base as well that way. And yes, the Wall Street Journal was like my buddy. Yes, I read the Wall Street Journal religiously.
We touched on this a little bit earlier, even before I hit record. But this is something you write about in your book, that for you, talking about investing, talking about the stock market on television was easier than investing your own money. And I'm curious, was there a moment where you felt like you really started to break through that barrier? Because investing is scary for a lot of people. And you've got this job where you're on TV talking about it. I'm assuming there's some level of imposter syndrome almost going on in your head. Like, what am I doing? I'm not really taking control of my finances yet. I'm this person on television talking about this. When did you really feel like you started to break through that barrier where it wasn't just, okay, I'm doing this? It was really more a sense of like, you felt like I'm in control of my investing and my financial life.
So yeah, going on TV and talking about business news and global finance news is very different than investing your own money. I mean, being a journalist and gathering facts and reporting what you're seeing and reporting and attributing and the journalistic skills, that was great. I did think I did that okay. It was the personal part of it that I was feeling that imposter syndrome with. And yeah, I mean, I did feel like a hypocrite that in my own life I wasn't investing, yet I would go on TV. But it really was two different animals. It was apples and oranges. Because when you're investing your own money, you fear that you're going to lose your money. I wasn't going to lose any money by doing my job, being a journalist. So the fear of losing money is not just a knowledge thing; it's a confidence thing. And I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge, even though I really, looking back, probably did. But I definitely did not have the confidence thing. And the way I built that confidence up was actually taking action. So when I got divorced from my husband, I was the only one who can take care of me and, my kids. And I knew that I had to start building my portfolio myself. And so I really dug in and just started really digging in and learning about the concepts that I had often talked about, and learning it more in a granular way, and then actually taking steps, meaning actually investing and feeling more confident with each step, because with each little step, it was kind of like a little win that built my confidence up to take the next step. Although I made plenty of mistakes. One of the first things I had to do out of my divorce is turn in my leased car and get another one, and how I made so many mistakes just walking in. When they ask you whether you want to lease or buy, I told them. Whether, how much you want to pay per month, I told them. And that's the worst, because you completely lose all leverage. I didn't realize that they can completely manipulate the car contract based on what I just told them. In the first 2 minutes I walked in, I figured, I'm a smart girl, I can handle this. And I really didn't. And so I probably got ripped off. And that's what it was. It was just moving forward, just taking the steps instead of being paralyzed, I think was so vital to building that confidence in handling my money overall.
Well, I think it's one of the great things about your book is that you're able to channel your experiences and your knowledge and, yes, your mistakes into these actionable steps. And I was telling someone the other day, if I was a real estate agent, I think I would give my clients a copy of your book, because the chapter on home ownership and just sort of, it's almost like, so you've bought a home, congratulations. Here's what you're going to need to know. Just sort of the steps of here's everything that goes into being a homeowner after you've signed the paper and started paying the mortgage. So it's great. Let's go to the speed round.
Okay.
What is a thing you have bought that makes you happy?
Skincare.
Is that all year round, or is that just because it's summertime and we got to be careful with sunblock?
Oh, no. I mean, I think it's actually, you think of what I'm sort of thrifty with, not thrifty, but where I spend too much money is with skincare. So it makes me feel happy when I do buy, let's say, a new serum or a new moisturizer. Makes me happy.
Have you ever made a purchase that you regret in your adult life and sometimes you still think about it? Besides that first car, obviously.
Oh, I'm sure I have. Oh, I feel like I can't think of anything. What have I regretted? Of course I have. I can't think of anything right now, though, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I know you want a speed round. I'm slowing your speed round down. I'm so sorry.
I'll let you in on a little secret that the listeners already know. The speed round isn't that fast. So, it's...
Maybe it'll come to me as you keep asking me stuff.
What is the last thing you splurged on just for yourself? Not for your kids or any of your friends, just for you.
Oh, I just bought a dress. I'm hoping it fits. It's supposed to be arriving in the mail.
Don't you feel like sizes should just we have the tech industry figured out the USB port. Why can't all the shoe companies get together and say, no, these are all the same size? Same for dresses, same for shirts.
Welcome to my world. I'm 5 feet tall and nothing fits me. So I won't know till it arrives and I try it on. And chances are it won't fit. And I'll have to have that footprint again, mailing back and forth. I know. It's just, yeah.
What is one thing about money that you wish you knew earlier in life?
I wish I really understood compounding, because it really is magical. And it's something I really haven't believed until the last, I'd say, 8 years. It really does. It really does happen. And I'm trying to get my kids to understand this. And I think they will at some point. They don't right now when you're in your early 20s, but start investing now. And I swear time matters. Time in the market matters. And you don't have to invest all in a fancy style. Just keep it going, consistently invest, try to get stocks that, or ETFs that have, that give you a dividend, and just let that money keep rolling and rolling. You live your life. And before you know it, you're going to open up your portfolio. Hopefully you'll open it more than not just once a year, but you'll realize, wow, how did that happen? And the answer will be compounding. It's a magical thing. And suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, all that time spent investing and finding ways to carve up my paycheck to put that little bit of money in, it really did work. What's interesting is you don't realize that till much later when you're older and more mature.
Let me go back to something, just since we're talking about investing, and this came up early in the conversation, just about how investing really wasn't talked about, when we were growing up. When you think back to the fights around money in your house, how much of your financial, for lack of a better word, paralysis as an adult do you attribute to growing up in a home where there were those types of fights about money?
Oh, I think it was that. I think it was the environment I grew up in itself. I think if you don't feel confident about yourself and your decision making, I think it affects your life, whether it's money, negotiating for a job, trying to get a job, doing anything in life. It can create paralysis. I talked about it in the book a little bit. I grew up in a chaotic environment. My dad was a drug addict, and it was a difficult environment. And so it hurt my confidence.
What is a charitable cause that you like to support?
I love to help animals. Yeah, I think that they're sort of like the voiceless. I like to give them voice. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie or TV series that has money as a major plot point or a through line?
No, but I do love Harlan Coben series on Netflix. I just can't get enough of those. And oftentimes have nothing to do with money. I do enjoy American Greed on CNBC on the weekends.
I feel like that show could run for 100 years just because it's greed. Like, there's always going to be greed.
It's always shocking, those stories. And Stacy Keach's voice is fantastic. So it sort of draws you in.
The last thing is a penny for your thoughts. And this is just any sort of wisdom you want to share with people who are listening that you've picked up in your life along the way. And it doesn't have to be about money. It can be any sort of wisdom you want to share.
I think the piece of wisdom I can share is about money, because I know a lot of Americans are struggling right now with inflation. And I know it's tough. And I know it's really tough to find ways to invest your money. But even if you can put just a little bit every paycheck into an ETF or something that's going to grow your money over time, it's going to help you. There is something you're probably spending money on that you don't need. And it's that little bit of money there. Maybe it's a coffee, maybe it's a sandwich you get. Bring it from home. You're going to save money. If you're making a great salary, don't be a spendthrift. The idea is just find ways to carve up your salary and put little bits into your investments.
There you go. Alison's book, What's Up with Women and Money, is available in paperback now. If you're enjoying Money Unplugged, giving it a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that actually helps other people find the show. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.